Concentrate.
Y'all quiet. I'm like, this ain't how we start. And I know we got stuff to talk about. I saw Bishop posted about Florida
What happened in Florida?
firing all the diversity employees from a school, university. I think University of with Bishop. Go ahead. And I saw you posted that. I'm not seeing it on the So we're supposedly live. We're probably live somewhere. Hmm. Let me refresh my Bible Way page. Probably live on YouTube for all I know. Yep, there we are. I see us on Facebook. Hi, Facebook. Hi, Facebook.
That's so
Comedy.
cool.
It's comedy today. All right, so we are on all of our streaming platforms. Welcome to Monday Night Live, ladies and gentlemen. Um, I will be your co-host with Professor Doctor, because that's what it says now. Professor Dr. Monty Norwood, and crew. And we are here to talk about whatever's on your mind, whatever's on your heart. How's everybody feeling? We also happen to attend Bible Way Ministries International in Atlanta, Georgia. Look us up by bwmi.faith, bwmi.faith for more information. That's right, it's .faith. So yeah, how's everybody feeling?
All is well. All is well.
In the words of James Brown, I feel good like I
I
knew
feel good. I just watched that clip. Well, several clips where people be trying to get him to talk about stuff and he just names songs, names song titles. I feel good.
I
Yeah.
love it if you could play music. That would be so cool. Yeah. Y'all had one of those little puppet dolls that would do that. It was a
Who have?
James Brown doll that would do the I feel good thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the things that I've seen that. I've seen that. Um,
Glad to be here
so
today.
glad to be here. Yeah, I don't know where to begin. I probably have so much on my mind that I don't even know
Why don't you
which
start at the beginning, Cal?
in the beginning there was the word. Now, hey, there's Shannon with 20 topics for us to discuss.
You know, I was having problems with my phone at first, but yeah, I I think I did I miss something?
No, we just started. We running late.
Okay. Oh well, I wanted to address the topic of a topic that is thrown around a lot. I hear it a lot. I hear it a lot in corporations now. The diversity, equity, and inclusion. Um, and it made me think back to when affirmative action was put into play. How do you feel that that help or hinder a cooperation or even with schooling? Of course, it helps a lot of people that when otherwise have the opportunity to be in places, be in certain schools and all that. But I also see where, like on TV, a lot of the companies they have that. I don't want to say token. They have that like token black on the show, and it makes me, look at the whole production um, differently because I'm like they're meeting their quota. How do you react to things like that? I mean, it's a whole bunch of other thoughts surrounding it, but that's just one area that's always kind of pricked at me.
And it's funny that you brought that one up because earlier today, Tanetta sent me something on Instagram where, and I didn't know if it was current, I didn't know how old it was, but it was apparently ASU where they had a whites only scholarship. And because they wanted to diversify the school a little bit more. And so they were trying, and as the students went up to like the person at like we're going to have like college, when you go visit different colleges at the tables, so they have like college fair. And the guy was like, now you realize you will be the minority here, and he's making sure the white students knew that. And then they're saying that they were, as the black students, required a certain GPA to encourage the white students. They only had to have like a 2.5 or something. And the black students were like, I can hardly go to school and still come out with a two, and I was like, wow, it's like reverse affirmative action. So it's funny that you brought that topic up, because I didn't know if this was something that was really happening, or was this spoof? Was this from years ago? I couldn't tell from the clip that she sent me. But I mean, I feel like in the companies where, it's majority one group of people, or majority one group, I do feel, I don't know exactly what they do exactly. I know that when I was at the firm that was, in Atlanta, maybe in audit in Atlanta, because the other areas might have had a better population, but in audit in Atlanta, that firm had a very low retention rate for African American auditors. They had a very low part, like as you went higher in the firm, black women, or then it went to black male. There was like 2 black partners, and they were not in audit at all. There were no black partners in Atlanta office in audit at all. We had no representation. Then we had all these little affinity groups and this and this and this. When I was there wasn't an official, I don't think there was an official, DEI person, but they did have all these initiatives and all these things. Like I think I've said this before, when we were there, when we came on, they took all the black, Latino, all the minority new hires, and we all had to go to a training in Florida that they called the Vanguard training, and basically was kind of trying to tell us how to fit in and how to feel comfortable, and to remind you that you are, and this rah 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 thing, where it was like you didn't know if you should leave feeling great, or like, why you got to tell me how to act. You really didn't know how to take it. It was fun. They always make it fun. But then on the other hand, they're telling you, you got to find comfort. You got to find familiarity, FCT, and all that good stuff. And I'm like, are you telling the other 20-year-old, 22-year-old white associate that just started, are you telling them that they got to learn how to have FCT? Are you telling them how to be comfortable in a new environment, So, I mean,
Right.
And I feel like it helped. Maybe I've always said, and this goes back to the whole HBCUs, right? Because I've always said that from my experience in that specific corporation, in those terms, with that degree, I felt like coming from an HBCU didn't help, because you came in there and you were so confident in yourself because of where you came from, and the fact that you were the top of everything. And that happened with every college person, right? Because you're a senior in a college, you think you know everything, you're great, and then you come into a corporation where you're at the bottom, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, they're sending me to get coffee. I went to get, I remember having that feeling of, I took my CPA, I did 4 years of school, 5 years of school, and I got to be here till 11 o'clock, and you're sending me to get coffee, And so there's that. But then when it's just I feel like I'm rambling, but it's like coming from like the world, where the world's your oyster in a completely black organization, and then you're placed in a place where all of a sudden you're one little fish swimming in a white pool, and you're the smallest fish in that pool. It kind of does something to you. I'm gonna shut up now. I don't know if I answered the question.
I could accept that better than being placed at the bottom because you're black.
Yeah.
Not even given, I don't agree with like the scholarship thing with the whites only. If you're gonna lower like the GPA, nothing is lowered for us. It's set, and then most of the time when we meet that, it's raised again.
Right.
And so when it comes to me and being a part of the what do you call the group? The group that we go to once a month.
Hopeful Honest.
Hopeful Honest.
Hopeful Honest. I just think that, it comes a time where you just can't talk about things. You have to do something. Like, what it's not enough for people to feel bad about it. What exactly are you doing? You get what I'm saying? It's like I've shared the example that I have. Everybody told me my neighbor was racist. Okay. I made it my business to write this lady a letter, leave some flowers on her step. And then finally, she sent me a letter back, whatever. She had lost her husband and all this good. That's not good, but she lost her husband. And that was a perfect opportunity for me to reach out to her. Then find out she's nothing like that at all. But I had to do something on my end, and then she had to do something on her end, which she didn't have to respond back to my letter or my flowers that I left on the doorstep, but she did. And so we started having conversation. I would stop by her house and she'd come out and talk to me and all that good stuff. But it's like, I just feel like most of the time we're the ones that's always making the concessions. And I just feel like if putting programs and stuff in place is good, but if you get to where they're just meeting a quota, I have a problem with that. I seriously have a problem with the TV shows that I see and they have like one black person, because I know they're giving them hell. I mean, they're giving them trouble, by even being on the show. They only got them on there because they gotta have them on there, and it's just like, come on now. Where do we go past talk? I just want to get past the talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Maybe.
think we live in a strange time where we could say so much about this, but I'll just try to truncate my comments. I think we're dealing with white lash, not whiplash, but white lash. So in our politics, we have ebb and flow. We had 8 years of, most recently, you could go back as far as you want to the founding of this country or before, but let's just more recently, we had 8 years of George H. Bush. And many people think that it was part of the reason for the election of Barack Obama, and 8 years of Obama was in reaction to a lot of things that happened in the Bush years. And Bush got the presidency in a controversial way through the Supreme Court when he lost the popular vote, and the Supreme Court gave him the election. If you go all the way back to the year 2000, President Gore, I would argue, Gore should have been the president, the former vice president with Clinton. And so many people think that Trump's election was a response to 8 years of Obama. So you ebb and flow, you go back and forth. And it's like, instead of the analogy of whiplash and an accident, you say white lash, because a lot of times it's race is a central factor. And so as a part of the white lash, part of the reaction against DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is to try to root that out at every level, in the private sector and the public sector. And so in the public sector, in the university system, Ron DeSantis in Florida has made it his mission to destroy it, to ban it, to defund it. And so one of the big headlines was that the University of Florida was divesting $5 million for that program. And one of the leading voices on the campus for that program was arguing that people don't even understand what DEI is. It's not a Black thing. It's for women. It's for Asians. It's for Latinos. And so I'm saying that to say, I think somewhere in the future, America will be a place where diversity is again celebrated. I mean, I think it still is in some places, but we're just in one of those ebb flow situations where you got these divisive diversity politics, and where people hijack phrases like woke, they hijack, things like the whole race concept that you hear so much about, and people just use them as weapons. They weaponize them and they make people feel bad. We don't want to make people feel bad. And I just think we're one of those places in society. But I think whether it's with women's health rights or issues like this, I think we're going to continue to see an ebb and flow over time. So I don't think we're stuck in this position. I just think this is where we are now in some very conservative places, such as Texas and other conservative red states are adopting the policies of Florida, whereas other states are not adopting those policies. And you see the same thing when the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade and took away federal abortion rights and left it to the states. You see red states banning women's health care and other states not doing so. And so I just think we have to keep alive what's important. We have to celebrate diversity every chance and opportunity we get. It plays to our strength. I think part of what's going on in terms of the narrative of the demographics of this country is that the country's turning brown. I mean, it's minorities will be the majority, and so
Yeah,
that's
careful of
concern
that.
for some people. So, but I think diversity it plays to our strength, and I think some see that and recognize that others use it as divisive and they use it to as a weapon. So
Do you
it's
not,
unfortunate and sad.
do you think though it's also an age thing? Because it seems like the younger generation are more accepting of everything, everything, but that, and a lot of the things that are coming down the pipe. So you had maybe the ones who are now 80 or something like that that were part of Jim Crow, that were part of that place that from before they had that mindset. And they're now, oh, they're not really, except unless they're in Congress, they're not really making any decisions anymore, except for Congress. And then now you have the 60 to maybe 49 to 60 who are the ones who are really in the weed of things and are now kind of, it went, like you said, the ebbs and flow. It was a little bit more lax in one part, and now it's kind of pulling back and being really conservative in the other part. And then you have to wonder, people, it wasn't as in your face, in the 80s, but it probably wasn't in your face because it, I don't know, it just seems like everywhere you look, it's popping up, but it's only because it's more visible now, right? It's just like the police shootings. You see them more because now they're recorded. You didn't know about them because they weren't so visible. And so racism in the 80s, you knew about it if you were engaged fully or if it happened to you. But otherwise, if you're in your own little world, then it's like, oh, all is well. We're a good country, And now everything is just out there. I wonder.
Right. Because I have several friends that are like from Alabama, and they would swear you up and down like it's not really racist. It's not really I have judge friends. I'm like, I have lunch with the mayor. Like, what? You like, okay, you were a good one. I got it. I got it. It just angers me sometimes, but I try not to be angry. Okay. Speaking of anger, am I the only one tired of the word narcissist? And nowadays, these young adults are call. I looked at a video. This young girl was saying she was trying to leave her mom's house, and she's saying her mom is a narcissist and like a religious nut or whatever. But you left her house and came back with a child, and what do you want? I want to know, what do they expect parents, the young people, what do they expect parents to do? Now be abused, because parental abuse is real. Um, and do parents supposed to just say, okay, my door is always open for you. Go out there, frolic, mess up all you want. Come back with 100 kids, or come back with a criminal record, or come back with drug addiction or some more stuff. So that's the word that they're throwing around for the parent. So can anybody help me out with that situation? Because I was disturbed by that. I saw that young lady, and most of the people were so sympathetic to her when I wasn't sympathetic to that young lady at all. But it was a lot of people that were sympathetic to her and saw her side of the story.
What young lady you talking about?
Well, it was a young lady. She's on Instagram. She had like 3 million views about that. She was trying to leave her mom's house. And if you look at the video, she's left. She was at 18, she left home. She went to college. She ended up meeting a guy, moving in with that guy, having a baby. That relationship was toxic, she said. And then so she went home to her mom. That's what she wanted to do. Okay. And now I don't know if the mom is trying to give her some kind of structure. The mom is saying that she was unstable in her mental thoughts and stuff, and she wanted to try and get her some help. The little girl said, the young lady said she wanted to leave. And so basically she called the police so she can leave. Her mom was fine with her leaving, but she's like, no, you like take your stuff. Like, don't leave today, leave for good. And my opinion is that kids want that freedom to just run back and forth, in and out. Get my child, I'm stressed out. I don't know what to do. Or,
So
I just think they're taking the easy way out.
she told her to leave for good and what?
They told her, the police had told the young lady, well, just go with what you got. And then you come back tomorrow with the police and you can get the rest of your things. And she was more worried about the key to the house than what the police was saying. And I took that as that she just wanted equal access, access to her parents' home whenever she liked. Not that it was almost like a tantrum to me. It wasn't that she was actually trying to leave home, but that was the whole topic of the video, that she was trying to leave home and her mom was stopping her from leaving home.
So where was the narcissist part coming? Where did that part come in?
They just throw it around. They throw it around. They throw that word around all the time.
They being who?
The young people. People. If you look at, you probably can just Google all the videos that they have on Instagram. That's the word that they choose to use. I don't know. She just said her mom was a religious nut and
So
talking about Jesus. And
there's a definition in the chat that narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition in which people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. They need and seek too much attention and want people to admire them. People with this disorder may lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others. So it sounds to me, I do hear about those kind of situations, Minister Shannon, every day, the complexity of human relationships, men and women, parents and children, children and parents, immediate family, extended family. We hear sometimes with tragic outcomes of what happens with conflict. And at the same time, because of the economy, there's a great wave of children returning home and of parents helping children financially. So I think it just comes down to individual situations. I do see the word narcissistic bounced around a lot in social media and used a lot in different ways. And sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes not. Sometimes when we get into describing these situations, we use a broad brush. Maybe we should be more specific. And when I saw this definition of narcissistic personality disorder, I immediately thought of borderline personality disorder, where that's the more fascinating one to me, when people create conflict where there is no conflict, because it's almost as if they can't allow there to be peace. So I think we just live in a time of economic tension, family tensions, and I think those spill over and spill out, and people often just put their raw feelings and emotions and responses, and sometimes you get the whole picture, sometimes you don't. But I think it's a great observation. Yeah.
yeah, I was just looking at I guess the main part that bothered me by it is that the economy is pretty bad. And I think a lot of people, if we, come together, you have extra rooms and things like that, it'll be great that you can cohabitate with people. But when it comes to like the young adults, I think they have unreasonable expectations of their parent. They have to, in my opinion, they have to still be respectful of that parent. It's you're coming back under their home. It's true. You may come out under their home as an adult, but you still are not on your own. You're in their house. If you're on your own totally, then you run things how you want to. But you have to respect how they're gonna run that.
I sometimes wonder. I wonder. Oh, she talked.
No, a phone call was coming in, but a lot of people are just sympathizing with. I don't know. I can't relate too much. Uh, a lot of people are sympathizing to these young people throwing these tantrums, and if you want something out of your parent, you're just not going to throw a tantrum to get it. It's not going to happen with me. But I mean, let me know what y'all think.
I think you said it and you meant it and you're here to represent it and we respect it.
Yeah. And I wonder sometimes, is it the thing where it's the way that we are now raising our children with this sense of entitlement to you get what you want and I'm gonna give you everything I couldn't have and all of that. And so when they get to a certain age, they expect it from you and from everyone else they encounter. That's the participation trophy. That's you didn't really do nothing, but hey, you were here. Congratulations, that kind of thing. I wonder if that is what it is. I also, our culture, I think about, the different cultures based on where, the US, or I can only compare it to home, but, where a lot of the times the young people stayed at home anyway until they were moving out to get married for the most part or something like that. And it was almost understood that, once you're here, this is how you're going to be until, if you don't want to be that, then you leave. And that's what it is. And there's no back and forth. You go out, you're big man, go out and be a big man. You can't be here. My mother used to say 2 women crab can't live in the same hole. So if you're a woman enough to be a certain way, you can't live here with me as another woman. So you go be a woman in your own house. And so I wonder, is it the way that we are now raising the children that's kind of coming back to bite us?
I think it's part of the village, the church has a part in that, the community, the immediate family, the extended family, loved ones who are discerning and see a situation. Sometimes parents do a good job. Sometimes they need help and assistance. Sometimes there's other factors, mental strain, emotional strain, financial strain. And so I just think there's so many individual circumstances, but we're at a time in the year where a lot of decisions are being made in regard to plans for the following year. If you're a senior in high school, you're making plans for what happens after high school. If you're graduating college, you're in the job market, perhaps considering further study. So it's always a good time, I think, to try to be engaged, to be a positive difference, from offering prayers to words of wisdom and advice to being a sounding board, whether it's parents or children. Sometimes the tension or the fault may lie on either or both. So I think it's a good opportunity to try to be helpful, particularly if you've been through an experience or you're witnessing these kind of tensions or circumstances, and you can bring some light and hopefully some perspective that helps in that situation. We got a number of people on tonight. I just want to acknowledge Deacon Vincent Fife giving us a shout out, Minister Sharon Smith giving us a shout out, Sister Centero. You guys are welcome to jump in here and give us a shout out, greeting, and tell us what's on your mind. We so appreciate you being here tonight, Sister Valerie Ragland. Just sending love out to everybody who's on with us live on the Zoom, as well as streaming on social media. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are glad that you're here. So much going on in our world, some big sports highlights going on. March Madness is down the road. If you're a Russell Wilson fan, the quarterback of the Denver Broncos, then there's news there. There are hot spots around the world. Easter is coming soon. It's kind of an early Easter for us this year. The 3 monotheistic religions of the world, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all celebrate holy days this month. Passover, Easter Resurrection Sunday, and also Ramadan. And of course, the attempt to get a ceasefire in the war in Gaza, I think partially due to Ramadan, et cetera, et cetera.
And we're going to stop because it's a holy day, but right after, we're going to bomb you up.
Yeah, there are a lot of people speaking out saying, the only ceasefire that matters is a ceasefire that really ceases fire, period.
Right.
Well, speaking of Gaza, I've been saving this to ask since last week. Well, because I was like, oh, that's a good question for Monday Night Live. So I was watching GMA, and it was the morning after the Michigan primary. And one of the Palestinians who who voted uncommitted, Trump's name came up, and the reporter was asking her, well, if we don't support Biden, Trump could win, which they love to hang over our heads. So she said, I'm willing, or we are willing to suffer short-term loss for long-term gain.
Mm.
But I feel like I don't ever hear that coming from Black people. And I mean, well, the Black mainstream groups, we never say that. We always hear, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. We never hear that. And when she said that, it just struck me, because I do know of groups who have that outlook per se, but mainstream Black groups, you would never hear them say that. So I just wanted to hear feedback on that, what y'all think about that. And she says she's very fully aware that if they don't support Biden, that Trump could win. But she was basically like, well, so be it.
Yeah, I addressed this on a Hopeful Honest conversation a couple of weeks ago, because I brought up that same point, what they were planning to do in Michigan. Their goal was to get 10,000 voters in the Michigan presidential primary to vote uncommitted. They got 10 times that. They got 100. He could easily lose. Biden could easily lose the election with that margin in one state, because Michigan is an important swing state. So it's pretty amazing. And my defense, when I was explaining this point of Hopeful Honest, I kind of I started to get a lecture from one of the special guests about, do they realize what's at stake? And my response was similar to what you said to Palestinian women's was, do you realize what they're enduring right now? I don't think you understand that pain. And so I certainly understand that. And I think we've got to be willing to go there. I don't think we should have permanent political party affiliations. We should have permanent interest, and we should do what it takes to serve our interests. And I think that there are people who've always done that. I think the issue that happened in Michigan was the breadth of the scope of those who were engaged and participated. 100,000 people can sway an election. And I think you began to hear things immediately from the White House, such as a member of Israel's war cabinet is in the US against the will of the current prime minister. He's a centrist. So he's here talking to the vice president, Madam Kamala Harris. And I think it portends the future, that you're not going to get a ceasefire. You're not going to get a two-state solution with this current prime minister in Israel. So you're looking beyond him. And it's interesting that you don't see the President Biden do it. You see the vice president. You possibly see future leadership trying to say there's a way forward. There's a way better than what we're doing right now. So I think there's merit to what you're saying, Santero. I think what happened in Michigan was extraordinary. I think that exchange was extraordinary, and I think that it's a model to emulate. I think that people of color in general, Black people in particular, have done it, but just the scope and the breadth of it, and the statement that it made, that again, we will endure short-term losses for long-term gain.
But I guess I'm asking too, do you think that we as Black Americans, like, we would ever do that on any particular issue? Because I feel like the gatekeepers would not even allow that conference. That would be shut down before. I mean, grassroots level, yeah, but from mainstream groups, mainstream Black groups,
absolutely, I do. There are all kind of voices out there. Again, they don't get the attention, the breadth, and the scope. I'll give you one. Bishop Talbert Swan is forever saying how Black Democrats are shafted. They're the most loyal voters, and they're often, and I agree with him. He says we get nothing for our patronage. So he is a voice. He's the duly elected leader of the NAACP in New England, where he is. He's a consecrated bishop in the Church of God in Christ, the largest Pentecostal denomination in the world. He's got a voice, and others are saying that. I think the issue is they don't get the breadth and the scope and the attention. We've not made that move in such a large way that we could say this could sway an election. But I think those voices are there. I think there are people. I'm willing to do that. Because I agree that we have not gotten much of a return, for our patronage, our support. And so I think, absolutely, I think the further things get pushed, even the agenda, it seems to put Trump back in office. Someone with 4 indictments, 91 charges, and it seems like everybody's laying down and clearing the way. I think some things are going to come to a head. I don't know how and when things will break out, but I mean, even the decision is going to come here shortly in 2 weeks, with the whole case with Fonnie Willis, the DA, and whether she'll be disqualified. I think all of these pieces play into the political calculus as to how people begin to respond and look at the options that they have with what's left to them. So I say Joy Reid is another such voice who's raising these kind of issues. A number of people I follow, particularly on Instagram, is where you hear a lot of the outspoken talk and people raising other options. So,
Question, and this is controversial, but so we know, Trump is who he is, and he has all this stuff following him, and he's not a great person based on all this stuff. But with everything that he's already done in the first one, I just wonder. So we know that the economy usually is a little bit better when Republicans are in, right? We know
not everyone would
usually.
agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. So it seems I've heard many people say that a lot of people who have money seem to like when the Republicans are in for whatever reason. I don't have enough to have to weigh in on that, but but okay. So what is? I guess I'm trying to think. Okay, if Biden isn't doing enough, like I'm trying to think. What is the worst? You have no way of knowing what the worst is because we have no way of knowing that what he would have done last 4 years. But I'm just saying, would there be any benefit, anything good that could happen should he be put into office? Which it seems like it will be between him and Biden. There's things against both, but should he be voted into office for another presidency? We know that hopefully that he could not be a dictator. He can't go in there and change the rules so he can get a third term. I think there's still certain checks and balances that would prevent anything too outrageous. I would hope. I want to have faith, right? So what's the worst that could happen? He's already stacked the courts. Unless somebody else dies, which they're pretty. There's nobody else that's like really really on the older side and to our knowledge is sick. What else? What's the worst that could possibly happen? And is there any good thing that could happen should he be in there and not Biden? Because I wonder if sometimes we're so hell bent on anybody but Trump that we don't look at any benefit that could possibly happen if he came in. Because in the realm of things, both options are not the greatest. And, unless we're saying, well, maybe Biden will pass and Kamala will be in charge, which that probably is not going to happen either. I'm just saying, are there any benefits if he should win? Is there anything that we could say, well, maybe this will happen that could be a good thing for the country? So it's not just devastating.
I was gonna ask that same thing. What's the long-term game of that? We clearly know it's not any other candidates really
I
that's
saw
gonna even matter, but Trump and Biden. So
so I saw a
I hear
meme.
y'all's conversation.
I saw a meme that said when the leading presidential contender is guilty of all 7 mortal sins in the Bible and they're signing Bibles, it's time to examine your religion.
I saw that.
Um,
He's
I,
autographing the Bible.
I don't think is an exaggeration to say that democracy is at stake.
Okay.
Because if Trump passes the last Supreme Court hurdle of saying that he has this
No.
broad immunity, what's to keep him from doing anything? If you say he has broad immunity, he can go on, Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody to death, and because he's president. So,
Yeah.
but I'm told by legal scholars before the Supreme Court decision today that we should have expected that they would rule unanimously the way that they did, that he could not be excluded from the ballot. I'm told by the same legal experts that we should expect him to be denied this broad legal immunity that he's seeking from the Supreme Court. And so that to me, I think democracy is in the balance. I think there's no limit to what he would do because he would see himself as unstoppable, immune from prosecution for any reasons. And
Mm.
I think we have seen people from fake electors to those on the state level who are ready to do anything that they can in their attempt to gain power and to hold on to power. And so I think um, I think that he would be fought at every turn, but I think that there is more at stake. And at the same time, I think as people of faith, we cannot leave out the element of God's sovereignty. I think about Psalm number 75, which is a psalm that kind of portends from God's sovereign perspective that ultimately God is responsible for who is in office, who is in leadership. And uh, we may not, as people, as citizens, be able to check him, but certainly there is another authority that is higher. And so from that standpoint, I don't stress in that same way. I realize that this is a possibility. I think that from what has happened from the first term, what has happened with the Supreme Court, what has happened in this nation, I think that Biden is asleep at the wheel. I think Democrats, I think Hollywood, people who could help to make the case are asleep at the wheel in terms of information that's already available in terms of what he would do, in terms of how he's going to come for people's personal rights, their bedroom, their sexuality. And so if people choose to sleep through that, I think they'll end up fighting through that for 4 years. So we have the
I wonder how you
illustrious
do remote work
executive
in another country. No, let me stop.
we have the illustrious executive pastor on tonight. Let's hear what she has to say.
Oh, good Lord. Praise the Lord, everybody. I just got out of another meeting, but I caught your question, Kathy, like what is the worst that could happen? I think a number of things, right? All that Pastor said, I agree with. The precedent is just tremendous. I think not that I personally need the country, the US of A, to be a superpower, but I think that the way we come across on a global scale, globally, will just, I think him being elected again will have some negative impact, right? Given all the information that's out there about him, who he is and what he's done, it makes us no less than a country that was, some regime kind of took over, right? And this is the democracy that you tout, right? I think now I believe in God's sovereignty, but I also think that I still think that he is a puppet, right? That there is a machine that works behind him, and that I've been a long time believer that the Republicans play a long game, and that they lie in wait for opportunity. And so him getting back in office is opportunity for them to do the things that they have always been planning to do. And so folks who have businesses love him because he is pro-business. He gives tax advantages, the tax code. Everything he does falls in line with what the wealthy want. But what it does is it subjugates the poor.
Mhm.
And those who are in the minority. And so I think he really can, being back in office, do considerable harm and damage to the people, the country as a whole, and our reputation globally.
Well, do you have a prediction? I'm not going to put you on the spot as to what happened the last time he was elected.
No, I haven't. I'm just, I hadn't even started praying about it, thinking about it, anything like that. Because there's so much going on right now, right? But when you think about him getting in office in context of the things that are going on right now, I would have to go spiritually and really say what I'm listening to more so are all the prophets that are speaking that we are literally in the last days.
We had prophets speaking last time that said that the angels were coming to to put him on the, and the Angels didn't really respond the way they wanted them to, but you know.
Well, but if he gets back, what does that response looks like? If he gets back in office, somebody's responding, right? If you're getting past all of the government officials who are trying to indict you, who are trying to, you're a felon going back into office, the highest office in the land. Somebody's
Well,
answering something.
well, there's a New York Times poll that came out today, and it says, and it's from the New York Times, so no like crazy conservative group, but the poll says no matter race, age, or gender, more voters say Trump's policies helped more than Biden's. And that was from about 4 hours ago.
Wow. All I gotta say is anybody who has been convicted of any crime, they need to go ahead and let them vote. Go ahead and let them get their passports, because if you can have 9 convictions and be able to be president, there should be no restrictions on the little guy who just went to jail for some weed. Okay.
And that's where, and to me, that's where again you bring division, right? Because then you're saying that this man is above the law, right? Because it's not equitable. Justice is not. It does not apply to now. We people.
We already knew justice wasn't blind.
Right? We already know this, but again, it speaks of democracy, right? That's that's the belief, and so I think.
Well, I mean, the democracy. I say democracy with a little d and a question mark because of the system by which we elect the president. Republicans have lost the popular election 7 out of the last 11 elections, but they have won the presidency. And so it's the electoral college, which itself becomes an impediment. And I don't know if it's the same poll that Santero you were referring to, but one headline about a New York Times poll claiming that Biden losing to Trump only surveyed 980 people. And I realize in surveying that they do extrapolate, but for me, it says it's going to come down to the final poll, and there's just so many twists and turns still to come, even with the legal jeopardy that he's in. One trial for the payoff money to the prostitute, that trial is on. He's on the hook for $500 million, and the judge says he can't, delay the legal fraud claim in New York. He has to put up a bond for that, put up assets for that. So I think a few of the right commercials rightly placed would make a difference in how people think about this in terms of how he has stacked the court, what those justices want to do, in particular Justice Clarence Thomas. I just think it's insidious. It's crazy. When you hear things about he's pro-business and good, his policies are good. The scarier thing is what he wants to do as a dictator, that he claims he's going to do, that he's going to weaponize the government, that he's going to not only pardon himself, but go after those who went after him. And I think everything about him has shown us that he will do that. So I just think these things should be highlighted. And if for some reason, political dollars start to be spent, these messages start to get out, I think that it changes the calculus. And I think this goes all the way up to November.
But I wonder if the fact that, all of these things where you know that he's been convicted of all these things, all this, and he's still so high in the pollings, and they're telling that on all parts, right? They're showing it. So I wonder, would that not discourage some people who probably would have gone out to vote to be like, what's the point? If he can get through all of this stuff and still end up on the ballot, what's the point? Obviously somebody wants him through.
Exactly.
I would hope that doesn't create that kind of situation. It was like,
That's a great point, Kathy, because I've been, as a Black clergy, involved in a number of different meetings. The local AME bishop, Reverend Timothy McDonald, I get constant stream of invitations and meetings and think tanks. That is the greatest concern. Who will go to the polls? Who will believe that your vote matters or does not matter? It's the final poll that matters. And that's kind of the whole message of Michigan, where they tried to get 10,000 people to vote uncommitted, and they got 100,000. Those people voted. They just they chose this option at the top of the ballot. And I think it's a residual challenge for us in our community to make people feel like, your vote does matter. You need to go vote, because margins matter, and your vote
Yeah.
actually does. That's why they do so much to try to make it difficult and to put up hurdles for you to vote. One
Yeah.
example of that here in Georgia, right here in our community, is we're no longer a polling place, making it convenient for some voters. You got to go further. You got to figure out where your new polling place is. Part of what happened in the state of Georgia from our own state legislatures, they cut funding. They cut funding for polling places. They cut funding for the hours and for the days of early voting. And so all of these things matter. They add up. Any kind of advantage that they can get. So my message is that our vote matters, period. And that not just our vote, but we got to stay engaged. You don't go somewhere and go back into a hole the day after the election. We got to stay engaged. Just because Biden or Trump get elected does not give them carte blanche. The citizenry should rise up and let their voices be heard.
Revolution. Let me stop.
Barack Obama, please. Because Obama needs to be back in prison. He needs to be back in the thing for like this whole thing. He needs to be back in this whole, election type thing. Because he was a good one. But Trump, he's a bad guy. But I think like Biden, he's like getting even, as you said, he's getting like older and older. Like Obama, he was like, I feel like Obama was like, how you say the puppet president that we already had before all this even happened. Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Ari.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were talking to Netta, but you were muted.
I was trying to remember what I was saying. But it actually speaks to some of what Ari was trying to say, is that, some of the successes, I think, and again, let me just say this. I am not necessarily that politically inclined. Okay. So I don't follow every bit of news. I don't do all that. But some of the successes that people attribute to Trump were not because of Trump. It's because of his predecessor and the government that was in place prior to him getting there. So what he's touting as his own success really didn't have anything to do with him. And so, and what some of what Biden is being crucified for, some of it, not all of it, because he's earned some of his, stuff, is because of Trump. When you think about the economic situation that he inherited, and that Trump inherited. So I think we have to help people to understand that being in office for 2 years, it takes time for change to happen, right? It's oftentimes a ripple effect. And so you have to see where it first started, and you have to understand the history behind some of the things that happened. So that was the point.
Good stuff. Calvin, did we miss any comments from social media? Any shout outs that you want to add?
No, I think I put everything in the chat.
Mhm.
Linda Norwood, hello, Bishop and Bible Way Ministries. Ari is on with us, and she said hello on Facebook as well. Vincent Fife says good evening, Bible Way family and friends. And Sister Ragland, I think you acknowledged her earlier. So that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Sotero and I are starting a movement. I want to announce that tonight. We haven't talked yet.
Santero, no.
No, that's what I said. We haven't talked. Like,
I'm like,
She's like, wait, did I forget? Did I forget something?
I'll have what she's having. Yeah, yeah. A lot of interesting things coming down the pike. Yeah, a lot of things still yet to be determined, to be known. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Anybody got any?
But with just a second, with all of this keeps happening, do you not feel just a little powerless? Like, do you not just feel like a little power? Because it's almost like I can see it. Why can't everybody else see it? Like, doesn't that make you kind of want to hit your head against the wall kind of sometimes though?
I just say a prayer, Lord. We need some help. We need some intervention. We need some exposure.
What do they drink? What's in their water? I don't want none. I will not have what they're having.
Yeah, I hear you.
I wanted to kind of go back to where we were talking about the children and being home and the difference, because not only are we having to be faced with this election and all of our political things going on, but you still have to deal with what's going on right here in your own, in your household, in your neighborhoods, in your, locally, and how to navigate through that. And I think it's encouraging to know how to, I mean, it's good to know how to empower people to be okay with some of the choices they choose to make concerning their household situations or their families, that are, within the right, within being right and being good, and not being something that's can be damning to your health or your family's health. But I'm saying that to say that even with dealing with children, a lot of times you find that you may have to, you deal with each child accordingly. You learn each of your children, you can't deal with the same way. And that sometimes as parents, you have to, you give more leeway sometimes to the female than you do to the male, because putting a female out is different than putting a male out on the streets, because and in some regards, I mean, some may see that differently too, but I think people have to be able to be okay with, if they choose to receive their children back into their homes, and they work through that and they work that out however it needs to be worked out for their household. I think that's okay as well. I do think there's a time, of course, that you're trying to um, um, help them or assist them, or advise them as they would receive the advice, how to navigate themselves to be able to be independent, whether that means remaining or going out on their own, But I just, I believe and know that a lot of times you handle things differently from the perspective of whether it's your male or female child, and where that child is, uh, within their life and how they're doing. So
Great points. Great points. Thank you for the perspective, and that there could be a distinction between how you would consider a male versus a female child. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Well, I would add for homework. I give everybody homework. Go on Netflix and watch a show called The Parent Test. And they have the different types of parenting styles
Yeah, I saw that.
on trial. So each one of those parenting styles, I'm sure each one of us can agree. And if you don't have children, you got nieces and nephews, and so you're going to fall in there somewhere. And then watch to the end and see which parenting style wins.
Gotcha.
Is this a rerun? Because I think I saw it. Wasn't it on network TV first?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, it
so.
was on. Okay, so Netflix must have bought the whole series. Yeah. So I did yeah. I don't know how I watched several episodes. I don't know how far I got, but
yeah, I've watched
very
that.
interesting. Nice human experiment.
So tell us
Well,
what kind of parent you are, Cal.
you didn't see me in the back?
Apparently, he's the one that holds the baby all the whole service.
You look good. Calvin had a baby Sunday.
I was like,
I'm,
oh,
I'm
look
gonna give
at him.
I'm gonna give y'all a spoiler. One kid told the parent, "I would like to slap your face." And he said, "You really want to slap my face, son?" He says, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, then. So go ahead and watch it. Y'all gonna enjoy it. Trust, I enjoyed it
I
thoroughly."
remember. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
some stuff. And what's really funny is the other parents get to make comments on they would watch the scenario and they'd be like, no, that is not happening in our house. I mean, it was
Right.
pretty fun. That was fun, yeah.
Just a shout out. I had a couple of routine diagnostic tests today. I had an echocardiogram and a stress test. It seemed to go very well, but heart disease is still the #1 killer of Black women. And so I want to encourage you all to make sure you're doing your diagnostics, your checkups, your check-ins, men and women. So many diverse issues. If we had an episode just on health, we've had 3 significant Black men die early of prostate cancer in the last month. It can be detected, and I've lost friends from it. So just a number of things that sometimes we have to be the encouragers and help to hold each other accountable for getting the attention, the check-ins, and the checkups, and the diagnostics that all of us need to get. So just a shout out for that.
What happens when the men are anti-doctor?
We got to tell them that you don't need to go to heaven early.
Right.
Or go wherever early.
Wherever.
First Lady, I didn't see it coming like that. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. I mean, doctors is not the be all and end all, but I think ultimately we have to listen to our bodies and as we age, to learn the lessons and to heed the trends and to take advantage of every opportunity that's available to us. So just really want to put that out there. The echocardiogram is a step above the EKG, and I think it can reveal things about the heart, the function of the heart, the size of the heart, if it's enlarged, if you have leakages, if you have wall thickening, the heart is working too hard. And all of these play a part in cardiovascular disease, which again is the #1 killer. So we have to give attention to that. So yeah. Any final? Okay, go ahead.
If I can just add to what you
Sure.
said, if you feel off, advocate for yourself. Like, do not be afraid to advocate for yourself. I was telling Pastor and I was talking earlier, and I was saying like, oh, I've had an echocardiogram. And it all started because I advocated for myself because the doctor was not trying to even do an EKG. And I was like, no, I'm off. She's like, no, you're having a panic attack. No, ma'am, that's not what it is. And we're going to do this EKG. So just going to get the low card. Let's go ahead and get this done. And then come to find out, she came back with the results and said, oh, I have to call cardiology. Yes, ma'am, I know.
Yep.
So, but
Yeah.
Be an advocate for yourself.
And I've talked to medical professionals who say that sometimes the first sign that there's a issue with the heart is an issue. I mean, there's a heart failure or heart attack. So again, I see Deacon Bruce Beasley is on here giving us some shout out, giving us some love. So thank you for being here, brother, in the DMV. That's Bible Way in the DMV. Love and appreciate you, brother. Any closing thoughts, prayer requests?
Job request. I'm still looking for a job, and it's still going the same way. But I'm just asking y'all to pray for me.
Will do. Let's pray together. Lord God, we thank you tonight for this time together for Monday Night Live, for the wide range of subjects and discussions, and how we are learning and being informed and being stretched. And we thank you for the various perspectives and thoughts. We just ask you to help us to continue to be engaged, to be salt and to be light, to be difference makers, anywhere and everywhere that we can. We thank you for serving a God who is able to do exceeding and abundantly above all that we ask or think. And we're asking some things tonight. We're thinking some things. And we thank you that you're greater than those things. We receive everything that you have for us, your provision, your blessing, answers to prayer. We receive it all now by faith, and we ask it all in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah. Until we see you again, God bless you. See you in the morning. Pop up.